Guess I'm introducing myself. Hi guys, I'm John Tsai. Welcome back, John. Okay, thanks. Okay, the person we've all been waiting for. We met like almost 7 years ago, and he completely changed my life. And he created this model that completely changed thousands, namely 87,000 agents' lives, giving them exit strategy, helping them build generational wealth. The man's an absolute genius, and the humility that you have, Glenn, is just next to none. So without further ado, Glenn Sanford, the founder of EXP. Good. All right, so. So first of all, Glenn, thank you for coming down. It didn't take you too long, did it?
An hour, 20 minutes.
That's it?
Yeah.
From Semiamu, okay. Now you know where he lives. Go knock on his door, just kidding. All right. So, Glenn, it's been a tough market like a lot of us said, right? And this just a question for me. What do you think agents should do in today's market right now to differentiate themselves and to actually do more production this year in 2025 and dominate?
Great question. That was not on your list.
No, it's a surprise.
So, one, be agile and be able to adapt, obviously, like you're making me do right now. But, the reality is that it's all about trying to capture attention. At the end of the day, whether it's building your database, whether it's adding people to your database, it's around how do you get attention. And nowadays, we've got so many different things that can capture attention, from social media to, all the things that you do just as a general rule. And I think the reality is you just have to figure out ways to continue to duplicate yourself in the eyes of the clients that you want to attract. And that's got to be a singular focus, and you got to sort of ask yourself the question every day, how can I be more relevant to my audience? And of course, you asked some questions, and of course I noticed it came out of your ChatGPT, and I went and plugged it into my ChatGPT, and it gave me a bunch of answers. But the reality is that you can start to use things like ChatGPT specifically to actually start to communicate and have it start to learn enough about you that you can actually go in there and say, based on what you know about me and the audience of consumers that I'm trying to attract into my business, what are 2 or 3 things that I can do now to improve how I show up for that audience? And that's a great way to just ideate. In my opinion, we have such an amazing tool in our pocket. Like, raise your hands, who's using ChatGPT right now? Okay, anybody want to raise their hand that they're not? Okay, just checking. Oh, got a couple. Brave, you're brave. But the reality is that we live in an age today where things are fundamentally changing so fast that you don't even and we don't even realize how fast it's changing. We're using things. You've got if you're using an iPhone, you're seeing Apple Intelligence. How many are starting to see the value of it actually summarizing things before you actually have to read the text messages or read the emails? I mean, it's becoming more and more ubiquitous. But that's the stuff that these big tech companies are giving to us sort of on the front end. The more that we can be proactive and figure out how to get on the front end of the consumer experience and use it. I mean, we don't know what this business is going to look like in 3 to 5 years, and mainly because of AI. But what we can do is we can take advantage of the changes now and use that as a way to differentiate, whether it's talking to your consumers about how AI can change their life. The reality is that we want to be the item of value that brings new things to our audience, and think about what that is. A lot of times we don't embrace technology. A lot of times we're sort of fearful because it's going to change things. But the people who talk about what's new, what's coming, what's next are the people that garner the attention. So from my perspective, figure out a way to be relevant, and part of that is being on the cutting edge of what's happening today.
Gotcha, thank you. A round of applause for that, wow. Staying relevant, guys, to your audience through technology and specifically AI and what AI and technology has to offer. You got to be at the forefront of it. So thank you for that. Guys, if you're not taking notes, what are you doing? I already have a full page of notes from all the speakers. All right. So you created the first cloud-based brokerage and changed the industry forever. But first of all, thank you. What problems were you trying to solve when you founded eXp Realty?
You know, it's probably the problem that most of you had if you are at EXP. If you're not at EXP, you probably still have this challenge, and the challenge is fundamentally I only can sell so much real estate. I have a P&L that I have to manage to hopefully make money, and there will be challenges in the market that could take me out if I don't have some sort of financial safety net in my business. Anybody relate to that? Okay, like fundamentally, we can get taken out at any time as an individual sole practitioner of real estate based on things that's going on in the economy. COVID almost took us all out in 2020, and until real estate became quote unquote an essential service. But we were like one of the few professions that was actually allowed to leave the house for a while, which was kind of incredible. But think about what that could have done had that not been recognized as something that's essential. People need to move, people need housing. It's a pretty important piece. But had that not happened, what's in place to give you a safety net? And most real estate professionals have no safety net. I mean, they're coming maybe from another profession. They're still building that momentum, but eventually they'll realize that they are one accident away, one event away from basically being in a world of hurt. And so for me, how do you solve that? So if you're, as a real estate professional, you're going to naturally go through this curve, assuming that EXP doesn't exist. But the first one is, okay, I need to build a team. Does that like you're a glutton for punishment? You did it, right?
Thanks, Glenn.
But I mean, it is you are kind of a glutton for punishment when you go, because I always say that if you wanted to make good money, you'd stay an individual sole practitioner. But you build a team to hopefully build you some stability into your business. What you realize is that it's not really that much better than being a sole practitioner, but you do it, some for ego, some's for income, but for the most part, you still haven't really fundamentally solved what you need to solve for. So the next thing is, well, I need to own a brokerage. And so that's the next sort of level on that, stair step. And what you realize is there's a reason why broker owners are called broker owners.
They're broker than you.
Yeah. I mean, it ends up that running a brokerage. I mean, it's every single and bricks and mortar based brokerages have it worse than anybody, because they're basically competing with somebody down the street has better conference room, a better private office, better coffee, better used to be a better fax machine. But it's based on the sort of the stack and stuff that they have there physically in the office, and they have to then compete also with caps and splits against the other bricks and mortar based competitors, and it's kind of like a nuclear arms race. Once I put in a really nice conference room and I start giving out private offices, then the next person down the street has to do the same, or they have to basically become cheaper for agents. And so it's not really a great business even for the broker owner. So for me, it's like, how does somebody get off of the hamster wheel of real estate? And fortunately, 2009 happened, or 2008 happened. In 2009, we recognized that high-speed internet was pretty much everywhere. And could we run a brokerage without bricks and mortar? One, because I was a broker owner and I couldn't afford the offices that I had. And so I had to get rid of the physical offices. But I also was a tech guy. And so I recognized the value of tech in a future economy, which, 15 years, later, obviously it was a smart move. And just recognizing that if we could use tech and leverage that and create savings and pass that on and create the safety net, that people might want to be a part of that. We didn't know, but that was the premise.
So out of necessity, you created eXp Realty and you changed thousands and thousands of lives. So wow, thank you, thank you. I gotta tell you, I mean, in 2020, February 2020, our team did 15 transactions. And overnight in March, when COVID hit, March 2020, we did 3 deals. I was like, okay, my career is over. Gonna pack it in. But I looked at my revenue share dashboard and it paid me out $15,000 residual income. Then I looked at my equity portfolio. There were $200,000 in there. So thank you again. EXP saves lives. All right, so.
Prevents suicide.
It's true, it's true. Most agents, Glenn, focus on transaction, but few build wealth. How did you design EXP to help to create a long-term financial security and ownership? You kind of just touched on that, but kind of elaborate a little bit on that, a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect most people here in the room are with EXP, but basically, what I looked at is I'd been running real estate teams. So I was a glutton. I was running 6 real estate teams. So I was a glutton for punishment.
Why do you keep saying that, by the way? Like, is it really that bad to run a team?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot that, selling real estate individually, working with individual clients is a way better experience in some respects than trying to manage a group of agents and trying to help them, hold them accountable to following up the leads, doing the calls. I mean, you motivate them by putting them on video, but but the reality is it takes a lot of work to actually manage agents, and that's the glutton for punishment, because you actually have to learn an entirely new skill set to manage people. So what was the question was, and so one of the things I noticed in running a team is it was a bit of a revolving door. How many here run a team? Okay, keep your hands up if it's a bit of a revolving door. Okay, wouldn't it be nice for, even if it was a revolving door, that still contributed to long-term income? Yeah, so that was the thing I was first trying to solve. Like, what could happen if we could create a platform for agents that if they left the team, they'd stay with the company and there'd still be residuals in that. And now I wouldn't want to tie them into heavy, burdensome contracts to stay on the team and tell them that if they compete against me, they have to move 50 miles away or 70 kilometers or whatever the number is. Which a lot of your team agreements say that, because that is what it took to sort of build some sort of financial security for you, but it's not really fair to the agents that are on your team. So how do you sort of more democratize this whole team thing and income thing? So that was the first thing, and then the other was, how do I personally figure out a way to break through what I saw as the income ceiling? 2009, the top teams in the world were doing maybe $100 million in production. Nowadays that's almost like the starting level for a highly productive team. I think we have a team now at EXP that does close to or at $1 billion in real estate transactions in a year, which is just crazy to think about that as a number. And even I have a hard time figuring out how do you manage that type of scale to run that type of business, but they now exist. So anyway, so basically just trying to figure that piece out. And then the other thing that I was thinking about was I went into the offices that I was a part of. One was a Prudential, now Berkshire Hathaway office, and then another one was a Keller Williams office. And I was a top producer, and I asked for equity. I was happy to pay for it, but I was offered no opportunity to own interest in the brokerage I was a part of. And so the other piece, and I refer to myself as a focus group of one, which is, if it's a problem for me, it's probably a problem for other top producer-minded people. So the next thing is, well, how do we actually make ownership? How do we democratize that as well? And that's, of course, what we ended up doing. In 2013, we became a public company. 2014, we created the Icon agent program, and you're probably, what, a 5-time Icon, 6-time?
Going to be 7. Yeah.
7 times, 7-time Icon, where basically if you're a top performing agent, you're as close to free at being at the brokerage as possible, because you're influencing the rest of the market to come join this company and be a part of it.
Round of applause. Thank you. I would have to say that if you're running a team right now and you're trying to get out of production, you're not going to be profitable when you get out of production, when you're just running the team. When I was in production, guys, it was 21% profitability when I was in production. When I'm out of production, it kept shrinking until last year, I had a $20,000 profit. I exist because of my agents. I want them to do well. But it's really not that profitable, like you said. But the revenue share, I'm profitable. So thank you again. I just want to bow down every time. Glenn, so you went from agent to billionaire entrepreneur. Billionaire with a B. Ba, 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 ba. What mindset shift made the biggest impact on your success?
Yeah, so EXP is an interesting 3 letters. One, it works really well for real estate. You're a real estate expert. Buyers are exploring, sellers are looking for exposure. As a company, we're expanding, but it also is the first 3 letters in exponential. And if you think about what exponential means, and John, you've alluded to it in your own personal business itself, but exponentials are the idea of, would you rather get $1 million or would you rather get a penny doubled every day for a month? And the reality is that, day 2 does not look very exciting. Day 3 doesn't look very exciting. Day 15 still does not look very exciting. You do the math, you might be able to buy a nice dinner at day 15. But by day 30, the doubling of that penny on day 30 is like over $1 million. And so it's leverage over time. These small networks that you're all building, these small networks, as you invest into them, over time become larger and larger and larger networks. And as long as you continue to add value to your community will grow and your community will return, things to it. The giver's gain, in my opinion, is the magic of exponential thinking, meaning that we shouldn't operate from a scarcity mindset. I over the years, and this is even before EXP, anybody could come and ask me advice. I wouldn't say I hadn't hit my stride obviously from a billionaire perspective, but I already had the exponential mindset, which is, even if you know something that you think is proprietary and gives you an advantage in the marketplace, even if you share it with somebody else, nobody will execute it the way you do. And to some extent, that's your secret sauce. And so the more that you can just share and allow people to monetize it in whatever unique and interesting way that they want to monetize it, what will end up happening is that you will get back that or something better from that interaction, even if you think you're giving something that's more valuable to them away than it is to you at the time that you're giving it to them. And so this concept of adding value first and then not recognizing exactly where it's going to land, but knowing that if you share enough value, eventually the marketplace will reward you. And I think that's the mindset shift that one sort of has to adopt in order to get the opportunity to potentially knock it out of the park, because there is the degree of sharing knowledge and reaping from the giver's gain. And then there's the idea that, there's luck involved as well. I mean, this was a science experiment in 2009. If I knew for sure it was going to be a home run, that would have been a sort of a different animal. But I recognized that it had the ingredients to potentially be a home run for me. And for me, that was 10,000 agents. It wasn't 80,000 plus. It was like, if we got 10,000, that was as big as my mind was thinking, but I knew it came from always adding value.
Thank you. What I'm getting from that is, if you want to have it all, you got to give it away. First and foremost, the giver's game mentality. And if you want to become a billionaire, help 1,000 people become millionaires, which you did.
Probably a few more than 1,000, but yeah.
Few more than, thank you. Okay, great. Amazing. So last question for you, Glenn, as we close out. real estate is shifting. It's shifting right now, and the tariffs just came yesterday. Everybody's like, "Oh my God!"
I was born in Canada. I was born in Canada. Just saying. Born in Canada.
In Alberta, yes. So not every agent will adapt. What separates those who will thrive in the next era versus those who may get left behind?
It really is adapt or die. And adapting is about being agile, recognizing that there are going to be things that come at us, right? This week it's the tariffs that are, is for whatever crazy idea that he's trying to do. I have no idea. But the reality is that we know that there will be systemic shocks to the system every 10 years. For sure. Within 7 to 10 years, there's some systemic shock to the system. And we just have to always recognize that will happen. We become, over exuberant in good times, and we become overly depressed in bad times. And if we recognize during the good times that we need to make sure that what we're building will survive and thrive in the bad times. That was actually one of the fundamental premises of building EXP. I needed EX to be a recession-proof business. And the single biggest expense to running a real estate brokerage is the physical offices, followed closely by the staffing costs. And you can go and get the book, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book that was written back in the early 2000s. And in there, it talks about the economic model of a real estate agent's team, or by extension, a real estate brokerage. And if you really sort of read between the lines, you have to make sure that this business will run in good times and bad times. And so you have to figure out what are those extra revenue streams that are coming in that can support you when things happen in a negative way. Because one, if you're starting the business in a down market, and of course, I think we're starting to see a little bit of upturn in terms of transactions in the Lower Mainland, so that's positive. Inventory is, of course, growing as well at a fairly rapid rate, which may have a negative consequence further down the road. Hard to say, but we are seeing more transaction volume. But if you're starting today, you're starting in a tougher market, and if you learn in a tough market, you'll do well in a great market. If you learn in a great market, you will struggle in a tough market, because you have to build that resiliency back up that maybe you didn't have to develop to begin with. So, for those of you getting into the business today, it's the best time to be in real estate. For those who have started in good times, this is the best time to get tough in your business and go forward. So
you heard it right here, guys. Oh, round of applause, yes. Adapt or die. Okay? And EXP is at the forefront of adaptability. We are recession-proof. Okay? Glenn, are you adopting? I'd love to be your Chinese son. Everybody stand up, please. A huge round of applause for Glenn Sanford!